Like a lot of states, Tennessee has faced a serious opioid crisis and a drug problem that's devastated many of our families, and that's one of the big topics here at the ACA conference in San Diego this week. Judge, you just led a special session on opioid intervention. What's it going to take for all of us to really tackle this issue and see some successes like you have in East Tennessee?
Well, I think we all hands on deck. Anyone that has a touch point with someone that's suffering from an opioid use disorder. When they come into contact with those of us in criminal justice, say at a jail intake, there has to be a universal screening to detect if they have an opioid use disorder. Then there has to be a rapid connection to the treatment that they need, particularly their life-saving medications to treat opioid use disorder, and then devise a behavioral health treatment plan, and then use the leverage that we have in our criminal justice system to keep them engaged in the treatment for as long as it takes to become stabilized and reintegrated in their communities.
And how does Commissioner Parker play into that with you? How does this partnership work?
Yeah, well, I just, it's encouraging to see the success stories that we saw with the judge's presentation. When you affect lives for the better, change people's lives, really. I just think about how the methods of supervision have changed over the years, and our staff interaction with the courts and with Judge Slone, and our officers supervising these offenders with good evidence-based practices that's
right.
driven by the courts, and all for a common goal to see people get their lives together and make Tennessee a safer place.
Judge, you said judges and everybody across the spectrum needs to level up. What do you mean by that?
Well, I mean, their training we have to become informed. We have to become knowledgeable about what addiction is, what it's not, okay, different treatment modalities, and have an open mind and follow science. But we all need a basic level of education. Anybody that has a touch point, judges, probation officers, jail staff, correction staff, we all need to have that basic understanding and training to get the best outcomes.
Are you seeing a change? Are you both of you seeing a change in the thinking in some pockets of the criminal justice arena?
Well, I think from my standpoint, I hear sheriffs from time to time come before TCI and talk about, what do we have to do to reduce our jail populations? And it's you hear more people talk about treatment options at the community level, understanding that we can't incarcerate our way out of this situation, and certainly not when it comes to addiction. Putting people in a prison setting that has addiction issues and keeping them there is, in my opinion, and releasing them back into the community is not the solution. And that's one of the 512-bed unit we have in West Tennessee for opioid treatment. That is an evidence-based model, but really, we want to see this resolved or begin the process of really helping people at the judge's level before they have to come to us. Right. And I think Tennessee's doing a great job with leadership like Judge Slone is just an example of the best way to handle this issue, and the judge certainly knows that better than I do.
Well,
and you've said government alone can't do that, right?
I think government alone can't do it. It takes the entire community. Government certainly has a role and a responsibility, but we don't, understanding that this is a brain disorder, we need to resist the narrative that says that we're locking people up because of an addiction. Mm-hmm. No, we lock people up because they commit crimes. Yeah. And so we need to understand that distinction. And so no one is saying that people shouldn't be accountable for the crimes that they commit. But when we interact with them, though, let's make sure that we do it in an informed way. And let's take what we know about brain science and know that when they're in active addiction, that their judgment is extremely impaired, and they're sick. And to do whatever it takes to obtain stabilization, and then a behavioral health treatment plan that is right for them, and use our levers again to hold them into the treatment until they want it themselves, and then they become engaged in their community, in their families, and healthy. And our probation officers in the counties that I serve are a critical role because they make sure that they are complying with that evidence-based treatment plan. Mm-hmm. And and we save lives because if that person is not showing up for treatment as they should or the other appointments as they should, then there's an immediate, they don't have to go through bureaucracy and to be able to reach the judge. They call me, they text me, they email me, whatever it takes, because we're trying to keep that person alive. And so we do incarcerate them, not to punish them, but we'll go out and get them, and then we'll think of a new plan with the one that maybe is that is better or better suited to them. And we just don't give up. And you look at our two counties, we have a stabilized jail population over the last 10 plus years. Stabilized or reduced in Jefferson and Granger counties. And our sheriffs love what we do, and they are a very important piece of this too, that the way they treat the inmates, the way that they do the transportation that we need them to do to go to different appointments and things before they're released, or to take them to the treatment facility or residential recovery facility, so that there's no gap between leaving jail and entering services.
Criminal justice. The judge quoted, who was that from? Da Vinci? Yeah, that's thinking. We have to think about new ways to do our business, and I think Tennessee's a great example, and certainly, Judge, you and your program is a model for a lot of people to follow.
Well, Commissioner, I can't tell you how much. I mean, I appreciate your leadership and what that we are doing together in Tennessee, because I think we are an example to the nation when you look at this huge gap population that exists that drug recovery courts cannot serve. They serve a very small part of the population, high risk of recidivism, high behavioral health needs. But this gap population is where working together in a model like our recovery-oriented compliance strategy, we have incredibly good outcomes. Again, we have a 50% reduction in burglary rates, at 950 fewer criminal charges, no jail overcrowding. We know what works, and it's all of us working together. And then we keep going down with regard to higher risk and the higher needs and trying all these first steps. If drug court doesn't work, we have a residential drug recovery court. If that doesn't work, then we have to go to West Tennessee.
Right.
But there, you're equipping them with what they need and with a reentry plan that, to again, make sure that they have what they need and that relationships are built and they reenter the community with the best chance for really good outcomes.
Do those chances of success increase if they come out from Commissioner Parker yet still under his supervision? Do you see that they're more likely to be successful if they are released from prison with some supervision?
I think that's I'm glad you asked that question. It's a very important feature that there's some back end, if that's the question you're asking, that there's some back end supervision. Releasing someone with a flattened sentence, I think the evidence will show us, and the studies are already out there, likelihood of overdose deaths and bad outcomes, recidivism occur because there's no one to help them once they reenter with that accountability piece so they can become reacclimated.
Yeah, I was going to say I think accountability is the whole picture there, from people leaving, having that going from a confined setting back into a population with no supervision. There's a gap there. I agree.
I think we could continue this conversation for a few more hours, but it definitely needs to continue. Come back tomorrow. We'll have more from the ACA conference in San Diego.